Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of SE Scoops, and today I am joined by your Ring of Honor World Television Champion and a wrestling icon, Samoa Joe. How are you today?
I'm excellent. How about yourself?
I'm fantastic to be chatting with you. Like we said, you are a huge wrestling icon. We'll get into a little bit of your career in a bit, but we are obviously here to discuss the upcoming Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view coming up this Friday, July 21st. At the time of this recording, we don't know who you will be defending your title against, but we do know it will be Dalton Castle or Shane Taylor. And from what I gather, I don't believe you've ever worked with either of these men before. Is that correct?
No, these are both very new opponents to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, both very accomplished grapplers. But, when it comes to these type of challenges, I mean, there have been several new matchups that I've had both within the bounds of Ring of Honor and AEW, and I always welcome a new partner to tango with.
Yeah, so kind of as you're preparing for this title defense, kind of the uncertainty of it all, what kind of strikes you about each competitor and their personal wrestling history, like you just mentioned?
Well, obviously, Shane Taylor is a very fearsome individual. I mean, he is a man who knows how to move mass at a very accelerated rate and with a lot of speed and intention, which makes him very dangerous. And I think, he's been very much champing at the bit to, make his mark and prove himself. And, many people come to me to try to make that mark. And, it's usually a horrible mistake. And then when you get to Dalton Castle, tremendously charismatic performer, someone who dazzles any chance he gets. And I just look forward to being able to be in that ring and slowly but surely pluck that bird blind and beat the feathers off of him.
I like that. I like that move. I feel like that has to be the headline, assuming that it's Dalton Castle you'll be facing. But like you said, a lot of people have tried and a lot of people have failed to make their mark and kind of ground you. But, you're closing in on a record. You're just over 100 days from beating Jay Lethal's record for the longest ROH television championship reign. Is that kind of a milestone that's been on your radar, or what would it mean for you to break that record?
I'd love to say it was something I consider a milestone. It's just more of an expectation. I mean, I've set championship records in Ring of Honor before. I don't think why anybody would think that would be any different now. So, having this opportunity to eclipse yet another great ROH superstars championship legacy is just one more thing I like to do for the world.
Yeah, and like you said, you're no stranger to gold. You recently surpassed over a year now. You're at about 400, I believe, in 61 days, or it's been a long time. You've had a long reign here, but you were presented with a new title just a couple of weeks ago. So I mean, how are you feeling about the vibes of the new title? I don't think it's that drastically different from the one you previously held, but what is your general thoughts on kind of the design and then also the opportunity to get this new title as a recognition?
It's just a lot better just because only I've had it. I mean, that's pretty much it. It doesn't have like the stink of past failures and other people who've lost it, not been as awesome as I have been as television champion, like on it, which I kind of felt. It's a vibe thing. I'd have the belt on. I'd be like, some loser wore this. And, inevitably that was the truth. Now it's a brand new belt, fresh chrome. I mean, it feels nice against the skin. It's soft. You know what I mean? It's hypoallergenic. Doesn't really mess you up. So, you get there. It's good vibes on it. It's just, winner. That's what you feel off the plates. And I think that's just the biggest difference. It's more of a personal thing than it is anything aesthetic.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I feel like definitely, like you said, you are the only person who has held it, but you are not the only world television champion out there right now. Obviously, we saw a couple weeks ago, you and Zack Sabre Jr. kind of maybe tease a little something. We still haven't gotten to see that kind of one-on-one matchup yet. But with that tease, I feel like it's something that a lot of people have thought about now and have kind of been brewing in their minds. So kind of what would a potential matchup with Zack Sabre Jr., the New Japan World Television Champion, kind of look like, you think?
Zach would come in tremendously ready. I know that much. He would come in at the top of his game. I know personally, he will have a game plan. I mean, he's a very cerebral wrestler. He will know what he will want to do in that ring. He would immediately try to impose it on me. I will smash him in the face repeatedly, and all of that won't matter. And, 1, 2, 3 champion. Maybe, I don't know, he's passed out on the ground, or I don't know, maybe he just leaves after the first couple smashes directly in the face. And we call it an evening. So I think that's the most likely how it works out. I know I'm a little detailed, but I see these things. So, yeah, I think that's how it would definitely go.
Yeah, you're a huge pioneer and you pride yourself on being a pioneer. You said that in a previous interview. A lot of that with being the status of pioneer comes with a lot of responsibility. You have maybe this elevated pressure inherently or outwardly as you've now been turned to kind of be one of the leaders in not only the new era of Ring of Honor, but also AEW Collision. So how do you kind of balance that responsibility in being a pioneer for these new kind of eras and now Collision as well?
Well, obviously, you got to be open to new ideas. You have to understand that there's always new territory, and with new territory becomes new challenges and new ways to approach and beat a problem. Most of my problems I've still pummeled in submission, but occasionally I throw some nuance in there and we work our way around things in a new and fantastic way, which is probably the reason why Zack Sabre Jr. is still walking around today. So, yeah, I mean, I just try to stay malleable, but at the same time, strong in my convictions. I mean, these are contradicting concepts, but really when you think about them, you have to be like the river. You either become the water and the water becomes the object, or, you got to flow, you got to be hard, you got to be strong, you got to be soft, all these things at once. And I like to think that I am that perfect balance.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes with experience, obviously. It's been 21 years since you first stepped into Ring of Honor. A lot has changed with the company, and like you said, a lot has changed with yourself. So maybe besides adapting to that malleable identity, how else do you think that you've grown as a person and as an in-ring competitor over these 21 years?
I think the biggest thing is I've definitely learned to enjoy it more, especially, as your career progresses, because a lot of times you get very, very caught up in the moment. It's almost overwhelming. But as time goes on and as you begin to kind of understand the flow of the crowd, the flow of the people and stuff, you do definitely enjoy what you do a lot more. And, aside from that, just having the ability to be able to work with young and upcoming talent and to see them kind of flourish and I guess develop in the same ways that you did during your certain points of your career. It's always cool to see that happen and be a part of that. It's good energy to have. It's good to see people becoming stars in their own right. And it's always fun to be there for the journey.
Yeah, and you mentioned, your in-ring exterior is very serious, you're kind of a bulldozer, literally. So, but, balancing the fun aspects of wrestling, like you said, what do you think has been the most fun or kind of entertaining moment or match that you've been a part of where you kind of maybe got to let loose?
I think anytime, if you were really to ask this question of anybody that, kind of done this as long as I have, I mean, really, the best times are always at house shows, always at the non-televised events. But a lot of that too is just because it's a very different environment. There's a very different type of interaction level with the crowd. So, I could say there's tons of those matches, and there legitimately are. But I'd say the majority of them have probably occurred where prying eyes and cameras were not present.
Yeah, and no, you mentioned putting over these newer stars of this new era. Ring of Honor is still in its early stages of kind of reshaping its identity, but I will say one of the standout figures besides yourself has definitely been Athena, leading the charge in the Ring of Honor women's division. She'll be defending the title against Willow Nightingale this Friday. But as Ring of Honor is kind of rebuilding its women's division and kind of cultivating that, how would you you've been around for a while. You've seen women's champions go in and out. How would you rank Athena's reign kind of in the collective of Ring of Honor and just her reign in general?
On an aggression level, very high. And, I think a lot of what her reign is about now is kind of establishing to the world who she is and how she decides that she's going to handle her reign. And I think she's very much in that mode. To say it's a legacy, I think it would be a bit premature yet. We'll see how this all pans out, but it is definitely trending that way. And I wouldn't say it's getting into top 10 territory, but actually, no, I'd say it's probably getting into top 5 territory to be quite honest with you. I mean, really, it's a little bit great. Excuse me, a little bit greater than top 10 territory. I think we're in top 5 territory.
Yeah, I think she's done a fantastic job. And, this new era is still in its early stages of it and kind of cultivating that identity. You are one of the rare people who's gotten to be able kind of the original Ring of Honor and now this new era. So for you, what would you say are kind of the biggest differences between your original, 2002 to 2008 to kind of now? What would you say are the biggest differences other than ownership, of course?
I was going to say resources would probably be the biggest one. I mean, it was very much a tighter budgeted, very much smaller company in its infancy. But at the same time, we had a very passionate fan base that managed to pack out whatever venues that we came into. So, and I think that really therein kind of lies the differences. Ring of Honor, when I was there, was a smaller fan base, but definitely a very rabid fan base, one that followed us all over the country. Was being built kind of from scratch around the nation. So to be a part of that kind of company at that time is always something really special and really cool. And it's a very unique experience because, it's taking something that is, absolutely unheard of in an area and, making it known from, coast to coast in the United States of America. And that's, and Canada, very much to that aspect. So, being able to build something like that is obviously awesome. And it has a lot of unique things that are, you'll only experience in that setting. And now it's very much that same pipeline of, young, hungry talent who just want, opportunity, a little time to shine and show what they can do and, make their way up through the industry and hopefully become, the star that they all hope they will become.
Yeah, Ring of Honor is still in the process of expanding that. But like you said, we've seen a lot of new and returning faces join the roster lately. But if you kind of had the power to sign any current talent in the world to Ring of Honor, who do you think would serve as a valuable asset to the company?
I mean, I listen, at this point, you could name off 52 different people and everybody will ooh and ah about it. I will say this. I don't think the strength of Ring of Honor has ever lied in finding the guy as far as like a guy out there and bringing it in. I think its strength has been discovering the guy. I'd love to see the do or die format return to Ring of Honor where we would have, pre-show matches and based on that crowd that night, a lot of people do or died, either you're in or you're out. And it created a very different locker room environment. People who were in that locker room earned their way into that locker room. And I think it's a tradition that isn't too crazy or very wild in its ideology. And I'd love to see it come back. So that's what I think Ring of Honor, what it's really about is if I'm going to bring people in Ring of Honor, it's finding that next person, not a current person or a star that we can fit in there. I mean, those people, they're out there and then it's easy to say those names, but I think the future of Ring of Honor very much lies in the future of professional wrestling.
Well, speaking of stars, last question, you recently faced off with somebody who you were very familiar with in the semifinals of the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament, that being CM Punk. For nearly 20 years, you pretty much had Punk's number until he finally beat you in the tournament. So kind of coming off of this, do you have a newfound respect for him, or how would you describe the dynamic after this most recent encounter with CM Punk?
I mean, respect. I mean, I don't know what there's to respect there, but okay, cool. I mean, as far as how he beat me, I mean, he wants to call that a victory, cool. I mean, I remember when I beat him, he was passed out on the ground. So, I mean, I don't know. We just have different ideas of what conquering somebody means, but yeah, it's cool. As far as our dynamic, it's not good, and it won't be good until we get that win straightened out.
Fair enough. You two have history. Hopefully we get to see that continue. I'm sure we will as Collision continues to heat up. But of course, you've got a big title defense coming up this Friday at Death Before Dishonor. Samoa Joe, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been a pleasure.
I know it's been a pleasure for you, and it's been kind of nice for me too. You take care.
I'll take that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.